Hello and welcome to the Weekend Edition. I'm Dr. Kingol. We have a great show lined up for you. It's been an eventful week, manze. The London Marathon went down this past Sunday. Alafu all eyes were on the world record holder, Eliud Kipchoge, the one human being who has ever beaten time. And you know, it's so sad and heartbreaking that some people chose to focus on the fact that he finished 8th, forgetting the achievements he has made kwa hii dunia. And after the race, imagine Eliud Kipchoge had to explain his performance.
I had a problem with my right here actually blocked all the halfway. It was really blocked.
Basically, 2020 has been both a good year and a bad year for Kipchoge. Now, vile tu Kipchoge alisema masikio ilifungana ika-affect mbio yake, hapo nilijua kuna Wakenya hapa nje hawana adabu. So masikio ilifungana. That's why hakusikia watu wakimpita. Very shameless. Now on this, I love a point shared by a tweet anajita TJ pale Twitter who say that Eliud Kipchoge needing to explain himself ama to explain what happened in the race, mazi. Norma, we sometimes place our heroes on such a lofty pedestal and we forget how human they are. Maze, Eliud Kipchoge remains to be the greatest of all time. Maze, congratulations to himself, Kina Bridget Kosgei, Vincent Kipchumba, and the entire team that represented Kenya in London. Leo pia tuko na show nzito kama kawaida. Our guest for this episode is a gentleman who for the longest time I thought is the author of the English Dictionary. He's a distinguished lawyer. He has served as a director of the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission. Profile yake nikiendelea kuambia, it will eat into the whole part of this show, the first part of this show. Why do that? And we have him on set. Professor PLO Lumumba is in the house. We'll be talking to him in a bit, but first, this week NTV revealed the mystery of the source of President Uhuru's shirts.
At least per month, we give him a good number of shirts, minimum at least 6.
There is particular people when you wanasema hapa anashughulika cuff, another collar, another button stand, another buttonhole, and at last we get to our final product. Na kila siku tukimwona amevaa, we are just proud of our product. Tunaomba siku moja angalau tuite hata sisi atuambie feeling yenye anasikianga.
Kenyans say they can predict the president's mood every time he steps out in a Rivertex shirt.
Unaweza jijazia tu hii shirt amevaa, kuna kitu anakuja kuongea na either ilete furaha ama ilete huzuni.
Wasi wa NTV LD mazi, Gabriel Kudaka. Of all the people wangeongelea shati za president, ni Mulamwa tu ndio mulipata. Sisi wote tunajua relationship ya Mulamwa na mashati. Hapo mulichoma. And now that it has been confirmed that the president, that mashati is a president, hushonwa na mafundi wa Kenya, we now know why the last time the president was supposed to address the nation on Friday, and the address was pushed to Monday. Na hata hiyo Monday, shati ya kufungua haikuwa imefika, ilibidi afungue na suti. Jokes aside though, the president's initiative to buy Kenya, build Kenya is very noble, especially considering the fact that he is leading by example. Mi point imenibamba kwa hiyo story, ni hiyo mambo ya mood.
Kenyans say they can predict the president's mood every time he steps out in a Rivertex shirt.
Unajua unaweza pata hiyo ndio criteria ya mashati za president kushonwa. Hello? Hello, mumesema anaongelea nini? Ndio nisishone sati sio hiyo. Hello? Anafungua mashule ama anafungulia walevi? Mimi naona kama ni walevi tuende na blue. Blue like blue, color blue. Sio blues, blue aris. Now you do realize that these tailors have access to state secrets like the president's body size. Unajua kawaida anavaa garage. Lakini hile wiki ya revenue share ilibidi tumemshonea medium. Sema kukata. Kwanza unajua kuna siku number 2, the deputy aliitishiwa shati hapa, nikaambiwa ati anavaa extra large. Nikashangaa. Kwani hii serikali ya Jubilee ni nani mkubwa? Now fun fact, watu wamekuwa kidhani ni politicians utupima. Kumbe hapa nje kuna Wakenya wa kawaida wanapima mpaka president. In other news, in his first overseas tour since the COVID-19 pandemic struck, President Uhuru visited France to secure 180 billion shillings funding for infrastructure projects. Getting the money wasn't hard. The task was convincing investors that the money will not be stolen.
I'm not going to lie to you. Yes, corruption is still a problem. But I want to guarantee you that we are fighting that problem. We are putting in place mechanisms that are going to ultimately ensure that it is much harder for people to engage in corrupt practices. And after we lock up a few individuals, I think even the sweetness of corruption will also begin to taste very bitter.
Now, we are informed that the president had to assure the investors that their money was safe after this video emerged online detailing how the government allegedly supplied the COVID-19 PPEs donated by Jack Ma to needy Kenyans. In other news, Wrangles in the Kenyan tea sector has given Tanzania ideas to set up their tea auctions to rival Kenya. While responding to this, the managing director of IATA, that is the East African Tea Trade Association, Mr. Edward Mudibo, responded like the OG.
The issue about Tanzania opening could also be an indication of our own creation here. I wouldn't fail to get sleep because their market share is only 3%.
We cannot lose sleep. This makes sense. Tanzania has no chance here, Mazi. As of 2017, Kenya had a 25% market share in the tea market. On top of that, hebu ongeza ile chai ya traffic offenses na Edgar Obari. Now, we always complain of how corruption is dragging this country behind. But have you ever stopped to think about if vile wa Kenya tumezoea vibaya, can this country do without corruption? For example, and be very honest, if you got arrested for a traffic offense on Friday, ukienda ndani utalala mpaka Monday, upelekwe court upigwe fine ya say 10,000 bob. Versus ama compared to kupea askari mwenye amekushika 500 bob ajifanya hata hajawahi ona mtu kama wewe. How many Kenyans will go for due process in the name of fighting corruption and being a good citizen? Then, does this then mean that corruption saves time, money and effort? Ama wacha niwapatie example ingine. When you need a certain document urgently, which procedurally will take you like 2 months to get. If someone offered to get it for you in a day at a small fee, how many of you would wait? Then now, this begs the question of, if it's possible to get the document in a day, does it mean that the system we have promotes corruption? Our guest for this episode has served as the head of the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, making him the perfect fit for this conversation. Professor PLO Lumumba joins us on the other end of this break, so see you guys in a bit. Welcome back to the Weekend Edition. I'm Dr. Kingori. Vile nimwambia show nzito sana, show noma. Our guest for tonight, sipendangi kusema ile kitu ya a person who needs no introduction, but hana nyi mnajua ni a person who needs no introduction. PLO Lumumba is in the house.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kingori, for inviting me.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
I read an article that in your personal life, other than just being a proper lawyer, that you can defend someone, you can also defend yourself properly and be a mambo ya black belt holder.
I'm a martial artist of the Shotokan karate version of the third dan. I've been a practitioner of martial arts since 1975. And you may want to know we are actually with a friend of mine creating our own art called Niabuntu. It's going to be an art. We are now writing its philosophy. It will be an art that borrows from Kung Fu, borrows from Kempo, borrows from Jiu-Jitsu, borrows from different art. And we think that it will, Nia in fact is, we have taken the name from Ubuntu and Nia, kuna Nia. So Niabuntu, the will to do good. That is going to be our art. You'll see our G is black, our highest belt will be red, black for our color and red for our blood.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before that, what wengi, most of the people who venture into martial arts, lazima kuwa metandikwa mahali. What inspired you? Did someone beat you into martial arts?
Not at all. If you look at some of the leading martial artists, they'll be great philosophers. Bruce Lee was a good martial artist. Ron Van Cleef of the Black Dragon schools. Frank Dukes. Wong Jackman, Jet Li.
So
these are leading martial artists.
All this training and suffering that someone goes through to be fit is about philosophy.
Absolutely.
Sio ati ndio uweze kutembea Kariobangi usiku peke yako without
hiyo ukiweza utagongwa na bunduki.
I thought it's for inner confidence. Like wewe ni moto. As in, you've never you don't even get the urge to test your skill.
No, I don't.
You just train.
Yes.
What are you training for?
To give myself inner peace and discipline.
Then Basi, I think it's easier to drink alcohol because
of course it's easier to drink unakunywa na kulewa chakari tu.
I've tried my training. Sijui kwanza before just I'm at the amateur stages.
Yes.
I mean Form 1 training. Easy squats.
Yeah.
The pain you feel.
Yes.
And then we talk about the different levels of belts. Karate.
Yeah.
Just for inner peace.
Oh yeah.
So you marry a good woman. There are other methods of getting there are other means of getting inner peace than all that training. Training, correct me if I'm wrong. For real. There's some confidence you walk with in town. Mtu hawezi kunyonga, right? That gives you some form of peace.
I'm alert.
Why don't you exploit what you have to live
by beating people?
No, not necessarily. Provocation. Like you anasema Kariobangi usiku, just so that someone would. Someone would. You've never found yourself self-defense. Haujawahi jipata mali. No. So all your training ni ya nini?
Ni kujipa ile nidhamu. Umejua jambo la muhimu sana ni nidhamu.
Ni kupa wengine nidhamu, sio wewe.
You know, Dr. Kingori.
Yes.
You sound like a street fighter. Where did you grab it? Unataka noma.
Na shule yako iko wapi? Shule yako iko wapi nikuje kidogo tu?
No, we are looking for a space because we are now training in houses. We train individual training.
Okay.
But once we gather a few people from our own system, because this is a new system, and we want to start from a philosophical standpoint. Yes. So that ukiingia kule katika kufanya mazoezi useme ni ya kupiga watu, ni kujipa nidhamu na pia inakutayarisha kwa kujihami mwenyewe kama jinsi ulivyosema. Yes. Ikiwa kuna kasheshe mahali na mtu amekuletea kile ambacho kwa sheng tunaita noma, basi pia unaweza kumshughulikia mwenzako kwa njia inayostahili.
Just in case.
Basi.
Na kuna watu kwa training hapo kwa individuals, kuna mtu amekula motura excess mpaka ukimwona unamwambia tu wewe enda tu ununue bunduki.
Kuna watu kama hao.
We are almost going 4 years. Tukiambiwa request later PLO, tulete PLO, tutafutie PLO.
Asante.
But we found you for the perfect topic for you.
Thank you very much.
We've been thinking with my team and we've been observing Kenyans in general, and we've noticed something. Like corruption is convenient for us. And you've been the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission, so you've interacted with the beast one-on-one. So is it very expensive to be an upright citizen?
You know, at one time I said that Kenyans identify corruption. They condemn corruption. They condemn it in churches. They condemn it at funerals. They resent it. They think it is a bad thing. But they participate in it. And there are people whose lifestyles are defined by it. And it is therefore very convenient, as you've rightly said, for people to engage in petty corruption. Take, for example, if somebody is arrested for a traffic offense, the penalties are such that you will be taken to a police station, you will be detained if it is on a Friday, and many people therefore say, why don't I give the police officer 5 shillings and save myself the pain? So that there are circumstances which feed the monster of corruption. Okay. And secondly, our social acceptance of corruption is very deeply rooted. It is a country where we say ni mwizi wetu. Ameiba, tunafahamu hivyo, tunatambua hivyo, lakini tunamshabikia kwa kuwa ni mtu wetu. Tunamshabikia kwa misingi ya kikabila. Hilo ndilo tatizo tulilo nalo.
Okay, sawa. So hiyo ni njia nyingine ya kusema system ina support corruption. Corruption has the goodwill.
No, I think that would be too harsh. It would be proper to say that the circumstances and the environment that exist in certain circumstances create a fertile ground for corruption to thrive. It is not true that the system supports corruption. The system as system is a system that has resented corruption and has enacted legislation and has created bodies that are specifically designed and mandated to fight corruption. But remember that when you create KCC, when you create EACC, it is not possible for those bodies to fight corruption without the assistance of the population. So it is the population that must resent corruption.
But how can the population resent corruption if the population can do simple mathematics? As we gave an example, you've been arrested on a Friday for a traffic offense, and you do the math. That means if you go in, ukikubali kwenda station, you stay in till Monday so that you can see a judge, or you can get to be taken to court, and then get a fine of probably 10,000, 5,000. Whereas here's an opportunity where you can part with 500 shillings and go scot-free. You've saved corruption thereby giving that 500. If you do the math, kama unajua pesa vizuri, you've saved 9,500.
That is not how to look at it. Let me give you a personal example. It took me 3 years to obtain a driving license. I went to several driving schools and they told me that I had to pay an element which was undefined. And I said, what is it for? They told me it is to be given to the train. I asked, is it a bribe? If it is a bribe, I will not pay it. It took me 3 years to get a driving license because I refused to pay. And that was in 1989. I was very young. I'd just graduated from the law school in 1986. It took me 5 years to get electricity in my rural home. I was asked to pay 1.2 million. I refused. I ended up paying 134,000 shillings because I was prepared to wait. Okay. So Kenyans at an individual level must make a decision that I'm not going to participate in corruption. I'm not going to drink from the poison chalice. Because, as Nyerere used to say, rushwa ni kama kula nyama ya mtu. Okay. Ukisha kula mara moja, basi utakuwa ni mshiriki.
Kabisa. That's an interesting fun fact that your driving license is 1 year shy of a KCSE certificate.
Indeed. That is a very nice way of putting it.
Yes, your driving license, you enter high school. But if that spirit, it sounds very easy, but sometimes you find yourself in a situation, say like a passport. You get a job that requires you to have a passport like instantly. Someone who's never even dreamt of going out of the country. The procedure takes, say 2 months to get a passport in your hand. Then here comes someone who can offer you the same passport at 10,000 shillings. Say if your trip cannot wait for the 2 months, the 60 days. Then you do the math. And you think, as a Kenyan citizen who needs an opportunity, does that put you in the same
No, Dr.
position?
Kingori, that is where I want to say something that I think is very critical. If you create a system, and it's easy to do so, you go to the passport office and you create a system, a section that allows you to follow the normal process, which is 60 days.
Okay.
You create an express system. And what you ask people to do, if you want your passport to be generated within 1 hour because there is an emergency, if the fee is 10,000, pay us 20,000. And is normal, is regular, and will get you the passport.
On the system?
Yeah, within the system. We simply charge you for wanting us to work a little faster. And this is what happens in many countries in the world, particularly in the Western world. You simply have systems that allow you to pay a premium in order to get hastened service. And we can do that.
So the government is not taking advantage of the loophole that other people are exploiting.
Absolutely. You create systems such as I've talked about, which reduce eliminate and or minimize the opportunities for people engaging in petty corruption and theft. If you do that, you'll discover that corruption becomes the exception rather than the rule. And that is where we need to go to.
Sawa, sawa. Let's imagine a corruption-free country. One time, there was a bite that really went viral in the country, that as the business environment in Kenya is as difficult, is so difficult that becoming a billionaire is impossible. And that if you have anyone who's a billionaire in this country, they are automatically a thief. They must have stolen at some point. Would you agree with that theory?
Not necessarily. There is a sense in which the billionaires we have in this country, and I think it's my friend Manyora who said that during a debate, he said that if you are in this country, if you are a billionaire, then you are invariably a thief. There is merit in saying that, but I'll qualify in a short while. If you look at the bulk of our so-called billionaires or multimillionaires, there is a sense in which many of these individuals, if you look at their legitimate income vis-a-vis the things that they own, you will discover that they are engaged in grand theft. A friend of mine from Liberia, Boima Fanbule, calls it theft on an industrial scale. But I said there would be a caveat. There are people that I know in this country who work hard.
Yes.
They are silent. They have been slogging for years. They are few and far between. Many of them are not in politics or in public service, but they are there. There are few legitimate billionaires in this country.
I came across a study about Norway, which ranks at number 7 in the list of Transparency International, I believe.
Yes.
As the least most corrupt country in the world. Then someone said, the study I stumbled upon, they were saying that Norway, there's corruption, but people don't make noise about it. You see, unlike Kenya, where we break stories in the media about how money has been stolen, they keep it to themselves. So ideally, mtu anaweza argue that sisi, we are successful in corruption, sababu sisi ni wadaku. Would that be the case? Because corruption is actually viewed as an African thing.
Let me tell you, Dr. Kingori, corruption is alive and well. If you talk to the ordinary Kenyan, they meet corruption at a dispensary. They meet corruption when they go to the assistant chief's office, when they go to the chief's office, when they go to the DO's office, when they go to places where there is government service, when they meet the police officer. Corruption is at every corner. Countries such as Norway that you are talking about, individuals may be born and never ever meet a police officer or a government official who asks them for a bribe or creates a situation where payment of a bribe is necessary. But corruption exists in almost all countries in the world. In the countries that we are talking about, corruption will be at the highest level. The endemic nature of corruption in our country is that if you were to ask 10 people in the last 6 months whether they have paid a bribe for some service, perhaps 6 would tell you, I have.
Sad, 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 sad. Very, very sad. Thank you,
And
sir.
the last point I want to say, going forward, and this I'm saying half in jest, half seriously, it should be the case is that when a person occupies public office, their spouses should be made to know what their legitimate income is. So your wife should know you are earning 300,000, or your husband should know you are earning 300,000. So if you come with a Range Rover, it is the duty of your spouse to ask you, Baba Shiro, this one, how did you acquire it? And if it is not legitimately acquired, Mama Shiro should report to the authorities. Otherwise, she's a partner in crime.
Let me let you into something, Professor. That example you just gave, how would it work if it's the spouse who, if you don't have a Range Rover, they will ask you, why don't you have a Range Rover?
We must pray and fast for them to learn to live within their means.
Okay, so then I recently came across an article of a Nairobi University lecturer who received a bribe of 3,000 shillings from a student, and he had been sentenced to 3 years in jail. 3,000 shillings. Isn't that a disparity to encourage people to steal big? You steal enough to pay lawyers, you steal enough to survive, to buy justice?
You say there's an old Kiswahili saying, ukitaka kula nguruwe, kula aliyenona. But let me go back to the question that you've asked, and I must think like a lawyer in this regard. I think like a lawyer that when people are convicted on the basis of evidence that has been adduced in court, that is the proper thing. So I'm very slow to condemn the judiciary. The judiciary administers justice according to law. And there is a difference between justice according to law and truth. Truth is a totally different thing. If they coincide, well and good. But it's justice according to law on the basis of the evidence that is adduced before them.
Nashukuru sana.
Asante sana.
It's been a pleasure.
Asante sana Daktari King'ori, Mungu akujalie siku zote uendelee kuchapa kazi nzuri hii.
Na wewe pia.
Asante inshallah. Shukran jazilan.
Maze, najua mna complainingi vile time ya weekend edition ni short, but there's a solution maze. We are extending this conversation with Professor PLO Lumumba to Nation FM 96.3 from 10 to 11 a.m. on Monday. Tuendelee na hii story. Niko na maswali mob sana nataka kumuuliza. In the meantime, that's it for the weekend edition. See you next week. My name is Dr. King'ori.